Hello everyone, my name is Bryan Brewer. I'm the founder of Funding Quest here in Seattle, Washington. I've been working with startup companies for almost 20 years now, and I'm here to talk today about one of the easiest things you can do to give your startup a boost if you're on the road to get funding from investors, and that is to build a board of advisors and use them effectively. So let's go down, let's look at what we're going to talk about here. First I'm going to talk about what is a board of advisors. We'll focus then on the benefits, because sometimes startup entrepreneurs don't realize how much traction and leverage you can get by having a good board of advisors. I want to talk about that. Then how do you recruit advisors? How can you formalize your working agreement with advisors? And then how do you actually work with advisors? So let's jump right in. So what is a board of advisors? It's basically a small group of friendly supporters who help you in your company. That's really all it is. It's folks that have the experience and the knowledge and the contacts and everything who can really help you, and you pull them together and have them serve as your advisors. This is especially helpful when you're in the early stages of your company and you're moving towards the threshold of looking for your first round of outside funding. These advisors can really help you position your company in the best way for investors. So it's important to note that the board of advisors is not your board of directors. Board of directors is a more formal function of your corporate structure. The board has actually fiduciary responsibilities. Your advisors do not. They're simply there to help you and advise you and support you. So the benefits of a board of advisors. Well, the first one obviously is advice. That's why they're called advisors. And this is where if you're smart and if you are what I call a coachable learner, which is what most investors are looking for, then you will take advantage of building a board of advisors and asking for advice when you're stuck or when you're at different points where you're trying to make decisions about your strategy or your tactics and you're not sure. Then hopefully you've got a good board or a few advisors that you can call on. You can ask them for their advice. Doesn't mean you always have to follow it, but in general you'll probably get pretty good advice, or at least it'll round out your thinking about what your next strategic moves are going to be. The second benefit, which is sometimes even more important than the advice, is the contacts. Typically, you will recruit advisors who have experience in business, and especially in fields that you need help in. And oftentimes, just having an advisor say, "Look, you're saying I need some help here in this area," and they might say, "Oh, you know what? Let me pick up the phone. I know just the person to help you," and they make that introduction, which saves you time and money and really can move your business along much faster. It's really important. The third big benefit of having a board of advisors is you can use them as a sounding board. Not, sometimes for just how things are going. You have this, as a CEO, you have this sense that, well, I'm not just doing this alone or just with my team. I've got some other folks that I can call on if necessary, if I just need to talk about how things are going. Having a sounding board can be very effective in helping you stay on track with your process of moving your startup forward and getting towards that threshold of getting funding. Fourth, having a board of advisors can give you a big boost in your credibility. Credibility with other people you deal with, but especially when you go to raise money from investors. If you've got a really good board and they are real advisors, that can shore up any deficiencies you have from yourself or your other members of your team in terms of your management experience. Because an investor will look at that board and think, well, this person has, they're not just trying to do it on their own. They've got some other people who can help them navigate their way along this path of building your company. And finally, another benefit is that working with a board of advisors in the early stages can prepare you to work with an actual board of directors, which usually comes on board after you get your first round of outside funding. So if you start working with advisors and having regular communication and back and forth and leveraging their advice, then it'll be easy for you to transition after that first round of funding into working with your board of directors. So very, very useful thing to have. Okay, so how do you recruit advisors? I recommend that you seek between 4 to 6 real advisors. And I call them real advisors because you want people who are actually going to give you their time and advice and introductions. And that means not just having somebody's name on a list because they're important and you never talk to them. That's not a good idea, because when you go to raise money and investors start to get interested and they start to do the due diligence on your company, they're going to call your advisors. And you don't want to have an investor call up one of the people you list as an advisor and have them not know who you are or have not talked to you in the last 6 months or a year. So you want to have real advisors. I also recommend that you aim high. Figure out who your ideal board of advisors would be, and if you can't reach those people to ask them, then start going down a notch or two in terms of the experience and credibility that they have, and find people who even people who you think may not give you the time of day. You'd be amazed how willing many people are to help, especially if you can get an introduction and be friendly and spend some time, and if you get some potential advisors to really like not only your business but to like you, sometimes they're more than willing to help you. I've seen this happen many times. How do you find these advisors? Well, you'll have to leverage your network. And so you have to start looking at your list of contacts and who do you know and who do they know. And as LinkedIn is especially helpful in terms of getting a second or third degree introduction to a potential advisor. You also want to look for chemistry, because these are folks that you're going to be dealing with perhaps for a number of years off and on, and you want them to, when they see your email or see your the caller ID on the call coming in, you want them to be excited about talking to you rather than, oh, I don't want to talk to this person again. And part of what can engender that kind of eagerness and willingness to help you is when there's chemistry. And that's just a question of do you like each other? Do you get along? You won't get along. You can't get along with everybody in this world. That's a fact. You have to find advisors where there's some good chemistry, where they will have that willingness to want to help you. And finally, run across CEOs who sometimes think, well, I can't ask this important person to be my advisor. Well, the truth is you can, and it's just worth an ask, and you might be surprised how easy it is to get a yes. And if you don't get a yes, what do? You ask, well, do you know any of your colleagues who might be willing to serve in that capacity, and can you make an introduction for me? So just remember, just ask. All right, so what do you do with these advisors once you get them, they agree to serve as on your board of advisors? Well, you should work with your securities attorney to put together a board of advisors contract. This spells out basically the time commitment that they are committing to. And it doesn't have to be real extensive or formal, but you do want to have it in writing and make it simple so that there is this commitment. It's a two-way kind of commitment. So they're saying, yes, I'll be willing to, take your phone calls, I'll, respond to your emails and talk to you once a month on the phone for 30 minutes or something like that. And you just want to set the expectations. Oftentimes, the nature of the relationship will go different. They may have a lot more contact or even less, but still be valuable. You just want to set the expectation. And part of setting the expectation in this agreement is that you want to offer them some compensation. Typically, cash is not so important to folks at this level. Paying them a few $100s a month or something is just not going to make any difference. What's much more effective and much more attractive to them is usually to offer them some stock options in your company. A fraction of a percent of the outstanding shares that vests over a period of time, say 2, 3, 4 years. And you want to put that vesting in there because sometimes advisors they disappear, or they lose interest, or for some reason they're no longer able to advise you. So you want to be able to terminate the agreement and find a replacement, and then not have granted those options all up front. The other big reason to have options is that even if it's a small percentage or a fraction of a percent, that gives the advisor the sense that they've got some skin in the game, and they're more willing then to give you the advice and move along and help your company, because ultimately it may benefit them if you have a big exit. How do you work with advisors? Well, one key issue here is to be aware of, be flexible in terms of communication styles. Some advisors may want to do email, others like phone call, others like in-person meeting. Ask them what they like to do, and then suit your style to match theirs, to each advisor. Do you have regular meetings? It's up to you. It depends on their willingness to do that and the effectiveness of it. You want to make sure that you don't abuse their time. But if the meetings are helpful and everyone likes to do it, then sure, have a lunch or have a dinner and invite your advisors. Also, don't be hesitant to enlist their help just beyond the advice or contact. Sometimes they are willing to roll up their sleeves and dive in and help you with some aspect of your company. It can be anything, something that they have some expertise in. And also, people ask, can an advisor also be an investor? Absolutely. There's no conflict of interest there. You don't necessarily go into this relationship thinking that you'll get some investment dollars from your advisors, but often it turns out that they will, especially if you develop a good relationship and you're getting a lot of traction, there's a lot of buzz about your company. They might think, hey, not only am I want to be an advisor, I want to be an investor in this company as well. Finally, always maintain some contact. Give some, give updates about what's happening in your company, the good news and the bad news. And you might consider an in-person meeting or a retreat on occasion if that's something that you think would work well and if everybody's located in the same geographic area. So here's one final tip I'm going to include here that wasn't on the original outline, and that is about accountability. One of the big things that having advisors can do for you is to help you develop your sense of accountability, and not only your sense of accountability, but the actions that you take to be more accountable. Because if you're going to grow your business, you're going to become beholden to more people in terms of advisors, investors, customers, and being successful is a lot of that is coming down to being accountable. To just say what you're going to do what you're going to say, and if you mess up on any of those, report back and say why and what you're going to do different. And so I encourage you, one of the things that you can do here by developing a board of advisors and being active with them is that you can embrace accountability, which will really go a long way in helping you succeed. So that's my pitch about what you need to do to develop a board of advisors. I also recommend that if you're seeking funding that you check out my minimum fundable company test. It's a free online test with 20 multiple choice questions. In fact, one of them is about board of advisors because it covers these 5 areas: your startup viability or product market fit. Number 2 is your revenue model. Number 3, or your business model. Number 3 is your market strategy management, and that's where the board of advisors come in, and your deal. So I recommend you go check out that test. It works for companies that are both either a high growth company looking to do an exit or for a cash flow company that's going to pay dividends to investors. And additionally, I offer my services. I'm an executive coach. I also do investor pitch makeover. If you're getting traction with your pitch with investors, sometimes I can help you really turn that around. And I also love to work with companies that want a full business plan package service. So again, you can reach me at the information on the slide here. And thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And best wishes in your quest for funding. Thanks.